Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is News and Week in Review. We're going to be diving in through a bunch of news pieces, catching up on last week. We have a topic of the week, learning to let go, although I'm pretty sure the topic is that I'm not learning to let go, but we'll get into that. And then, of course, the Week in Review, the games I play, the various videos, and timestamps for everything down below. But let's go ahead and start off with news, and specifically we have CMON over here with the Monty Python Flying Circus. Now, a few of these things will be a bit out of date due to Origins last week. My last week's Week in Review was a little lacking, so some of these things from a week ago plus or whatnot. But effectively, CMON over here released a Monty Python Zombicide expansion, which is amazing for those who want it, and completely uninteresting to me on a personal level. This is like, I mean, I never really got hugely into Monty Python. To give you an idea, my favorite Monty Python sketch ever is the Argument Room. That's, I mean, I do like that sketch, but like I never really cared for the Holy Grail. Nothing against that. I just never, I don't know, I never really found that thing. Although Life of Brian does have a lot of funny scenes in it. I don't know. It's I've enjoyed a smattering of Monty Python stuff, but in particular the Argument Room, and also I like him the most in Fawlty Towers. Fawlty Towers, that was a gem of a video growing up. So it's not that I'm not a fan of John Cleese, just Monty Python never did it for me quite as much. But either way, we have Monty Python Zombicide, in case that's something that you're interested in, and a bunch. It's like a bigger, larger expansion than the typical character packs they do. That's something cool if you are interested in it. We also over here, Floodgate Games announcing 2 new titles in 2-player 20-minute series, which this one's a little bit interesting. It seems that they are, Floodgate Games seems to be picking up the PSC line of games. I don't know what's happening with PSC, but Floodgate is picking up Dogfight, Caesar, and Blitzkrieg, which for me are my favorite games from PSC, so I'm not sure if PSC is I'm not sure what's going on with PSC. I remember seeing a rumor a few weeks back that Floodgate was buying PSC, which seems to not be the case. Not entirely sure, but that's just a small shift in who owns what, and these are 3 fantastic games. I love Caesar, I loved Blitzkrieg, but got rid of it because I think Caesar's better, and Dogfight is actually very, very different and very charming in its own way. Only had a chance to play it briefly just one time at PAX East, but I very much enjoyed it at PAX East. Then we have over here Devon Norris. Devon Norris over here, he's got promoted to, not promoted, I don't know why I said that, he got a job. He's excited to announce that Devon Norris joins us today at Lucky Duck Games as our new marketing specialist for the English markets. So Devon Talks Tabletop, Devon you've seen on the channel, will be working for Lucky Duck. Rest assured, he will still be on the channel, possibly in a reduced capacity, I don't know, but I wouldn't know what I'd do with myself without his charming face over here, so I offered him a raise. He said he likes Lucky Duck better, so I don't know, I tried to get him. No, in all seriousness, I wish Devon all the best. Devon's a fantastic human being. Lucky Duck is lucky to have him. You see, pun not intended there. But yeah, Devon's a tremendous individual. I have nothing but respect for him. I have nothing but positive things to say about him. When we're being genuine. If we're just bothering each other, I have lots of negative things to say about him. But when we're being genuine, Devon is a prince of a human being. Lucky Duck is lucky to have him. Any company would be lucky to have him. And I'm grateful that he's still going to be on the channel doing videos, even if it is in a reduced capacity. From there, we have over here, we have Clans of Midgard. We're going to have Grayfox Games coming out with a double Kickstarter campaign. Or actually, I don't know if it's Kickstarter or Gamefound. I'm not sure which one it is. But Clans of Midgard and Reavers of Midgard, the card game, I believe. Basically continuing the Midgardian stuff. I think Clans is a roll and write, a draft write and fight game which players play as leaders of Viking clans seeking to gain glory. So they're coming with more Midgard content for fans of the Midgard series. We have the Morrison Game Factory. This is the newest game coming to you from Post Curious. Post Curious who put out the Emerald Flame, which I think is fantastic, and other games that I haven't actually played in the Emerald Flame universe that I assume are fantastic. I've heard good things, and the Morrison Game Factory seems like charming. Just the art and production, I love that one offhand from what little I'm seeing of it over here. We have Wasabi, a game of raw skill. If you missed it, KTBG put out Diced Veggies. Diced Veggies is actually a straight-to-retail game from KTBG, and they're putting out Wasabi, a game of raw skill, which I believe is going to Kickstarter, if I'm not mistaken. But Wasabi is an older game. They're remastering it. It was, I don't know if it was designed by Josh Capel or illustrated by Josh Capel, but in some degree, Josh Capel from KTBG was involved, and it looks like they're picking up the license and bringing it to your table. Wasabi is coming back with some tweaks and adjustments. It's an older game. I played this a long time ago when I first got into the hobby. It's nice to see this one coming back. We have Renegade Games over here. They basically are reprinting Ex Libris as well as putting out an expansion for it. Ex Libris is going to be a library-style game of slotting books onto your shelf in various orders. I played that game once a while ago. Wasn't immediately pulled in by it. Always loved the theme, liked the presentation, but wasn't immediately pulled in by it. And I am curious how this one will hold up. You know, reprint, expansion, all that stuff. But they're reprinting and expanding the game of Ex Libris. We have Shut Games over here putting out Decrypt 5th Anniversary Edition, and my keyboard's popping up over there. Decrypt 5th Anniversary Edition from Shut Games. I don't know exactly what differences there are in the 5th edition, if there are any differences at all. Contents, game info. I'm not seeing offhand if there's any differences over here. There might be. Discover the original. Not sure. I'm not sure what the difference is. There may be there's differences, maybe there's not. But at the very least, it's more Decrypto. I don't see a thing about what's different, but I love Decrypto. Decrypto is a great game. Highly recommend it. And if you haven't had a chance to get your hands on it, this is your chance to get your hands on it. Then we have over here, we have Stonemaier Games. Stonemaier Games put out a few weeks ago I talked about how they put out a video about the great puzzle of logistics, demand, and retail. Nope, I don't think that one. Maybe it's that one? No, it was about tabletop publishers, content creators, and audiences, the Inside Scoop Part 2. So basically, he put out an Inside Scoop Part 1, he put out a Scoop Part 2, and now we have the Great Puzzle of Logistics, Demand, and Retail. Basically, these are various industry pieces about things that go on behind the scenes. I always think these are fascinating, and I generally encourage people to watch them because they'll give you a large degree of insight into what goes on in the board game space. So if you want to find out more behind the scenes, there's a part 2 to the tabletop content creator conversation, as well as a puzzle, logistics, demand, and retail, in which Jamie went into it with Alex from Stonemaier Games, talking about the nature of, well, logistics, which might be boring, but for me it gives you a lot of insight to what's actually going on behind the scenes. And then lastly, again, from 2 weeks back, the Dice Tower over here, the Dice Tower basically put out a video update, basically, in one of their board game breakfasts, talking about how they're changing some of the formats of the channel. Nothing crazy, nothing off the top, but in case you're used to the Dice Tower putting out like 7 or 8 videos a day, they are shifting it down to a much, much more reasonable, like, 5 videos a day or something like that. They'll be putting out a lot of videos a day. They're going to be adding some series, removing some series, making some adjustments, adjusting how they handle their board game unboxings and what goes on their second channel. So they're making just general adjustments to the Dice Tower channel to improve the quality of life, ideally for themselves as well as their viewers. This is completely normal. Tom, on a regular basis for the past year, for the past decade plus, has regularly made changes to the channel that ideally in some way improve your experience, and some of those are received better than others, but either way, Dice Tower is making some changes in case you wanted to know about that. And that's all I have for Week in Review. Not a ton of things, even doubling up from last week, there's just not a ton of things going on. But moving on from there to the topic of the week, and the topic of the week is learning to let go. And again, as I said earlier, I'm not learning to let go. I just feel like I should. So some general background information is I play a lot of games. As I'm sure you know if you watch the channel, I play a lot of games. But the types of games I play do shift and adjust over time. And what I've noticed over the past year is that 4-player area control games generally are not hitting the table quite as much, or 4-player games in general. I find solo games, I get played a ton. 2-player games, I get played a ton. 3-player games get played a ton. And something about 4-player games do not get played a ton, not anymore. They still happen, but they happen far, far less frequently, which has resulted in a backlog of games that I want to cover and review that ideally play best with 4, that I'll get like 1 play in and then not able to actually review it because I'd like to get more than 1 play in before I review a game. So I find a lot of games, both new games that I want to table, as well as older games that I love and enjoy but think play best with 4, aren't hitting the table quite as much. And that's not necessarily a problem. But in the case of things like Blood Rage, like Rurik, like Inish, Cyclades, Kemet, all these different games, I find it's harder to get them tabled, that I still get 4-player games in, but not nearly as frequently to see the rotation I ideally want on these games, or to get a certain genre or type of game played. Which means a good portion of my collection, maybe 15% of my collection, has kind of sat in this limbo of not getting cycled in quite as much. And that's the conversation about learning to let go. At what point do you learn to let go? At what point do you say things are what they are and you should adjust your collection to your current experiences, the way you dive into the hobby? And make no mistake, things like Blood Rage, Inish, and Cyclades are not going anywhere. Those are games that are just locked in stone. But there's a tier 2 out there. There's a tier 2 of games that you're not getting played, that you know you want to get played. Even just now, looking at my shelf, there's games like Carnegie or I don't know, Carnegie. I don't want to get rid of any of these games. We have Oracle of Delphi. We have Alien Frontiers. Those are games, by the way. Some of those games play great at lower player counts, but I'm just thinking offhand of different games on my shelf. We have Yucatan, which just came in. Yucatan is a great game, but it's not as good as Kemet, at least not to me. And so do you hold on to these games? How long do you hold on to these games? If there's a game that only is really going to be played with 4, and you're not playing with 4 as often, at what point? Root is a game I haven't played in like a year and a half. I haven't played Root, and it's an amazing experience, but I haven't played it in a year and a half. The nature and evolution of game groups, of people who rotate in and out, means that, like, I had a game group at one point before COVID, and my game group was 20 people. And then post-COVID, it very much shrunk, and life never really returned. And while I still get, you know, a regular degree, again, 2- and 3-player all the time, 1-player all the time, 4-player just not as frequently, and so only the best of the best get played at 4 players. So what do you do? At what point do you let go of a game that you love because you recognize it's just not getting tabled or played. How long do you hold out hope for that fourth player, you know, showing up and on a more regular basis and getting things cycled back in? Make no mistake, this video discussion is no way ends with me getting rid of any games at all, but it ends kind of with the recognition that I think I should be getting rid of some games. I think I should be harsher with saying, yes, this game is amazing, this game is incredible, and this game gave me good experiences, but it's not getting tabled as often. And again, some of that's just the nature of the fact that I do a lot of review coverage. I have to cover a lot of games for the channel. I'd say about 2/3 of the games I play every year. I played like 1,200 games last year, and probably about 2/3 of those were for the sake of reviewing it, and the last third was for entertainment. Now, make no mistake, playing games for the sake of review is still entertainment. There's a gap and a bridge and a crossover and all that stuff, but it's not... There's a difference between playing, I don't know, playing Inside Job because it's another copy I'm going to review versus sitting down and playing Blood Rage, which is a game I know and love. There's a difference in those levels of enjoyment. Both are fun. One is amazingly fun, and one is fun, and one's experiential, looking for the next best thing. So I don't have any firm answers here. I don't know what to do. I know I've certainly let games go in the past because I find it's easier to let go of games that aren't the right fit and I haven't yet played them. Things like, you know, I don't even know what's a good example. I don't have one off hand, but if it's a game that I haven't tabled and it's not the right fit from a game group standpoint, that's easier to let go of. But games that I've already fallen in love with and there's a temporary adjustment to the quantity of people playing the games, well, you can always find new friends, right? You can always find new friends. It's a Freudian slip. Find new friends. You can always find new friends. I don't have a firm answer. I do know that there's actually another content creator, Dale, showed up. We have another person who showed up recently to our game group that might show up on a more regular basis. So maybe we'll start playing more 4-player games that way. I don't know. I think part of my life as being a content creator means that I haven't specifically sought out ways to enhance the size of the game group because what I have currently works for trying to get the coverage I need done. There's a weird balance of looping someone into your game group and then saying, by the way, we're going to play all these prototypes. And so there's a weird way to handle how do you get all your obligations covered without imposing too much on a game group. And so there is that balance at play. I haven't figured it out yet. Let me know if you do. Let me know what you do as far as games in your collection of us, you know, moving from location to location and holding on to games that you don't know if you'll ever get tabled. I'm curious what you do down below because I don't want to let things go. I like some of these games way too much. Anyways, as far as games I've played, we have a few games so far. As far as the games I played this past week, as usual, this is diving into 3 or 4 games without heavily talking about every single last thing. But starting off, we have Challengers. I played Challengers for the first time. Challengers recently got announced that they're going to have a second edition, and it was a Spiel des Jahres, or this or that. I don't remember all the details. But Challengers is a fun little deck-building game as you go head-to-head until eventually you have a single face-off with the 2 people who have the most points, and then see who wins. But the ultimate idea of it is you are building your deck as you go. Every round you're gathering cards to try to put into your deck, and then you're going to weed your deck as well, and you want to be mindful because a larger deck gives you more strength, but if you have too many different cards, you might find yourself losing whenever they go to the bench. Longer story as far as how it works, but the general idea is you're trying to build a bunch of cards that sequence well together while being mindful of having too many different cards. That's usually what you're trying to do. It's a fun, charming little game. I've enjoyed it. I don't know if it's one I'm going to be reviewing, but I've enjoyed it as far as what it does without being amazingly impressed. I think it's a good gateway game. I see why it got the awards it did, and I think it is charming and fun. I think it's very light. I think it's a good intro to deck building experience, and I think it's light while being engaging, and it has a fun little back and forth as far as trying to gather the flag and trying to have the higher strength to gather the flag, but it's got way too much luck of the draw for me to be meaningfully impressed by it, past the fact that I think it's an excellent gateway game with charm, with variability, and a cover that simply does not pull me in. I would never have played that game from the cover alone. I had to like see more and hear more about it for me to be more intrigued by it. Then we have 20 Strong, a game I've played before, but I finally had a chance to fully play at Origins. I fully played through the Too Many Bones deck. Previously, until now, I've played through the Solo Sentinels deck, and I've briefly tried. I played through the Solo Sentinels deck fully, played half a game of Hop Marcus deck, and then barely touched the Too Many Bones deck, but I finally played through a full game of Too Many Bones. I lost horribly, like horribly, but it is definitely fun to see how the system for... It's definitely fun to see how the system for 20 Strong adapts differently to different decks of cards and different thematic aspects as far as the connection point between them. Overall, very much enjoyed it though, and yeah, very much enjoyed it, and I'm eager to dive back into it, trying different gear locks, trying different bosses, and different difficulty levels, and ideally trying to win this time. It was challenging. Solo Sentinels is one I managed to charge through and actually win, and this one was significantly more challenging, and I'm curious to dive back into it. We have Tiwanuku, which I finally got a chance to play. Played this one solo, actually. I played it originally when we had the campaign, was Pachamama and then Tiwanuku and all that, but I finally had a chance to dive back into it finally in the final production copy and all that. Playing it solo for the first time. I liked it solo, but I think I still drastically prefer it as a multiplayer experience, which is weird though, because I kind of play it as a cooperative multiplayer experience. Maybe I'd like it cooperative. Maybe I should try that. But Tiwanuku is a deduction game as you go by certain rules as far as how different patches of land have a degree of strength and what's next to each other, and trying to deduce what's where as you position your people and start making educated guesses about what's on the board. I really enjoy it. It has a strong collaborative feel. It's one of my favorite deduction games out there as far as, you know, games like, I don't know, games like, what are the deduction games? Awkward Guests or Search for Planet X, all of those. I think Tiwanuku is my personal favorite. Not necessarily the most competitive, but it gives you a strong sense of collaboration and teamwork in the game, which I really strongly enjoy. And so I was glad I was finally able to dive into that one, and now I need to dive into it actually playing it multiplayer. I want to dive into solo, just a quick refresher of the game, because I haven't played it since the Kickstarter campaign, and now I want to dive into it with my friends and play it more. That's going to be as far as what we have for the games I played, which brings us to the Week in Review. The Week in Review starting off with this past week, which is this past Saturday. This past Saturday, there was a preview for Wizards of the Grimoire. This is a game I still have to play. I know that Devon very much enjoyed it. I know that Jenna from Board Game Garden very much enjoys it. I know that a lot of people at Origins were talking about how much they enjoyed it. I really need to play it at some point because it's a game that is just a two-player head-to-head game, which to me is not usually my jam, although there are exceptions. Games like Radlands is an exception to me, so at some point I probably should try Wizards of the Grimoire, but overall, definitely I know a lot of people are enjoying it, and we did a preview video for that. I definitely did a preview video on the channel. We had later on Saturday, we had Babylonia, a review for Babylonia, which I had the one filmed for a long time. It's just taken a very, very long time to go up. I have some reviews filmed that are a year old at this point. I try to cycle content to keep it relevant, and that means some things I pushed off, and some things just get very, very, very delayed. Babylonia I filmed like maybe 6 months ago, I don't know. But either way, Babylonia, a solid game from Reina Knizia, giving you the tiling mechanisms. That's another one where I wonder. See, that's a good example of a game that I don't know if, I mean, it plays well at 3-2, but it plays best at 4, but it is fast moving. I don't know. I like Babylonia a lot. For right now, it's my collection. It doesn't leave yet, but it is one that I do wonder if it will leave, especially with that dynamic shift in game group size. Then on Sunday we have a review for Cyclades Legendary Edition. I love Cyclades. This is not going anywhere. This is one where I specifically, again, we do get 4-player games in, and I specifically made sure to get our regular group together for this game. We very much enjoy it. It's been one of our favorites, one of our staples in general, and Cyclades Legendary Edition. The art is a step backwards in my opinion. I agree with all the people who don't like the art quite as much. The same thing happened with Kemet. Honestly, I want to do a video of top 10 times they updated a game and the art got worse. I can think of like 5 offhand without even having to pause. But either way, Cyclades and art aside, which I think the art's fine, I just prefer the art of the original, but the changes they made really feel like they took the best of all the Cyclades content so far and put it together in a single box that I obviously want to see the final miniatures in production. I was dealing with like meeples and standees and all that stuff, which wasn't quite as much my jam, but definitely very interested and very intrigued by it. And that one probably launched. That probably launched already. Huh. I have to go check out the campaign. I thought it launched already. Either way, that's Cyclades. Then we have on Sunday. We had Where Are They Now for June. Just looking back at the games I reviewed last year, last June. I really keep meaning to redo the series. I find that when I do the Where Are They Now series, it's basically me spending 8 minutes talking about games, and the last 2 minutes are, hey, my opinion changed, and the other 6 minutes are, I reviewed this, I reviewed this, I reviewed this, nothing changed. I really want to think of a better, more interesting way to the series, but I have not done so yet. Maybe for July. We'll see. On Monday we had not to back. We skipped that. Instead, we did a 25 late pledges, specifically on Gamefound, just going over 25 possible late pledge campaigns you can keep your eyes on. In general, this is a series I want to start doing once every 2 months, once every 3 months, but it's only focusing on new campaigns. I don't want to mention the same one twice, meaning there's a point when I first started doing late pledge videos, I would keep showcasing older things, but there's a certain point now where certain late pledges are just in the public domain for like a year plus, and even if I'm excited about it, there's only so much I can really say. By the way, Wild Ascent, you can still back it. So yeah, I'm not going to keep that forever. But this was 25 new campaigns that I had covered, but I had not covered for late pledges. I'll be doing this every 2 months, just giving people an opportunity to jump in or find things that they possibly missed. Or perhaps if you only just started finding crowdfunding, you'll have an opportunity to see what recently was available. Then Tuesday we had a review for, first of all, we had a gameplay, or not really, I don't know what you want to call it. We did a walkthrough of the tutorials, We had a walkthrough of the tutorial for Tanares Adventures, specifically the tutorial, going through the first two games, skipping the actual gameplay, but showing how you'd actually walk into the Tanares system for those who have a hard time understanding it, because it is a little bit of a hard time to understand. Later on Tuesday, we had a preview for Timelances, another preview by Devon. I don't know much about the game myself. This one I don't know anything about it, but Timelances, a preview from Devon, went up on the channel. Then lastly on Tuesday, we had a Should You Back It for Tanares Adventures, specifically the day one Should You Back It, even though I have not done those quite as much anymore, because they have a giant drag, or they had past tense, a giant dragon you can get if you back day one, and sadly that's no longer available, and I specifically like getting that day one information out there, so when there's like a early bird or anything along those lines. Then Wednesday kicking off, we started off with a Cascadia 12x12 review. This is me diving into another one of my 12x12 reviews, which is basically me having played a game at least 12 times, and ideally in every possible configuration I could think of. I love Cascadia. It's a great game. It has continued to hold up. It has grown on me more and more since my original review, and I'm very excited for the expansions that will be showcased at Gen Con. I want to try Cascadia Landmarks, I believe it is. Then later on Wednesday, we had our weekly live. Devon was unfortunately absent. He will be back. Just, you know, new job, all those things. So we had Gray Baker, the 2-time WSBG champion and designer of Potions of Aslan, which will be coming to Kickstarter in August. So Gray, Meg, and myself, we had our usual game show, our usual game of the week. And then, of course, we had a conversation around Potions of Aslan with Gray, in case you want to know more about that. Then lastly, on Wednesday, we had more Tanares Adventures content. I'm doing a paid playthrough campaign with Dragori Games, going through the entire Tanares Adventures. So if you want to see that, there's going to be videos going up every 2 weeks with me continuing to dive into that campaign and just showing you more gameplay and more aspects of Tanares Adventures, because I think it's a fantastic game. And yeah, we'll be diving more into that, but that was me diving into the first one, which was Welcome to the Jungle. It's a very branching storyline aspect, which means you may have played through the entire Tanares Adventures campaign, and I think it's possible that we'll never play the same game in those arcs. I think it's possible. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's possible we will never branch pathways. Either way, that's going to be starting off the playthrough of Tanares Adventures. Make sure to check that out if you want to see 3 hours of me tactically deciding how to actually engage with the enemies and hopefully trying to survive as much as I possibly can. That was Wednesday. Thursday we had the best 25 games of 2023 so far. Basically, I went over the best games I've played in 2023, putting them all together. From these 25 or so, there's like 5 or 10 that really stand out. Games like DEI, Expeditions, what's it called? For Northward. There's a bunch of games that really stand out as far as excellent experiences I've had over here, and then a bunch of other just really solid experiences. But the best 25 games I've played of 2023, if you want to see all of them, check out Thursday's video. Which brings us to Friday. Friday we had upcoming campaigns for July. A bunch of campaigns coming up for July. We have Plan Unknown, we have Milan Uprising for the new Taboo system, we have Coloma. We have a bunch of games coming out in June on crowdfunding, on Kickstarter, on Gamefound. I don't know what's coming out on back end, I'm not sure, but the upcoming campaigns for July, that video went up Friday in case you want to see everything there. Which brings us to today. Today we have a few videos going up. We're going to have a review for Siliconvania, a surprisingly fun game from WizKids that I really enjoyed. A spoiler to the review, feel free to check that out. Then we'll also have a review for Sagrada Artisans, a particularly hard review because it's a review of me trying not to spoil anything in a game that's like all legacy. So it's like me showing you the basics and then being like, I like things. I didn't like other things, but I liked things. It's a fun review. You can check it out. I talk about aspects, but I have to like be mindful of my words the entire time because I'm trying not to in any way mess with your legacy, spoilers, all that stuff. And then next week, as far as videos going up next week, we have a few things. We have 2 Gen Con videos going up. We're gonna have, first of all, we're gonna have a 2 back and not to back. That's gonna be back, covering all the new campaigns, of course. We have a Gen Con video talking about what games you can demo, or specifically 15 games that I would specifically recommend you try to get your hands on demo, as well as 15 games that I think you should possibly get your hands on and buy, with a heavy caveat that buying games at conventions is not often the cheapest way to get your hands on games. Sometimes it's just about the access, but if you are looking to buy things, there's 15 games at Gen Con that I'm specifically highlighting that I think are worthy of your attention if you want to check them out. And that's basically everything. As far as the games on the table, we have Mistwind, a game I'm hoping to dive into this week, as well as Cretaceous Rails. These are both upcoming crowdfunding campaigns. We have Coloma New Prospects, hope to dive into that one. I played the original Coloma, I have not played this expansion yet. We have another crowdfunding campaign. We have Inside Job and Full Moon, Witchstone Full Moon. Inside Job is a small trick-taking game from Cosmos, a cooperative trader element trick-taking game. And then we have Witchstone Full Moon, which I did my review recently, and they reached out and said, hey, we have an expansion if you want to check that out, because I liked Witchstone, but I kind of wanted to drop more from it, and they're like, we have a drop more for it, and they sent me the expansion to check that one out. And that's what we have over here. That is everything. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I appreciate you being here. Go out, have some fun, enjoy your weekend, and until next time, I hope you have a good one.